We thought, man, we should have our friend Jeff Benedict on the show because he wrote this fabulous book about LeBron James. It's called LeBron. You can buy it now. Great for Father's Day. It is like the definitive biography and deep dive into LeBron James. That's me saying that. Jeff is an award-winning author. He's written 17 books, Tiger Woods, the Patriots. He's done it all, and he joins us now. Jeff, thanks so much for the time today. Congrats on the book.
Thanks, Maggie. It's great to be on the show.
Love it. Okay, so here's the first question. You have to write a book like this, you got to get almost obsessive about the subject. So when you hear LeBron talk about, well, I have to reevaluate, my relationship with basketball or moving forward, after you've just spent all this time researching him, what went through your mind when you heard him even hint at retirement?
Well, the first thing is I thought it sounded very authentic. It sounded very honest and more forthcoming than maybe he needed to be. People have described it as cryptic. It didn't seem cryptic to me. I mean, he's 38 years old. He's been selling out arenas since he was 16. He's been doing this in the NBA for 20 years, and he's done more for the game of basketball, both on the court and in terms of its image, than anyone in this century, the 21st century. And so I liken it to when Tom Brady got late in his career, the Kraft family said he's earned the right to decide how long he wants to play and how long he wants to be here. I think LeBron is in that category. There's no one else in that category, but LeBron's in that category. He's earned the right to do what he wants to do, and he does have a lot to think about. He's a 38-year-old husband, father of three, who's it's not about the physical part, Maggie. He just demonstrated in the last game he's still as good as anyone out there. 40 points, all those rebounds and assists, played the entire game except for 4 seconds. He's as good as it gets in the NBA. The question isn't physical. It's mental. It's emotional. It's, do you want to strap on the sneakers and go through another season of the grind of playing in the NBA? He's clearly got the skill and the talent to do it. Tom Brady went through the same calculus, by the way. He went through the same calculus because they've been doing it for so long. So I just thought there was actually a lot of honesty. He does have a lot to think about.
Jeff, I bought into the whole idea of LeBron playing with his son so much. I think that was the biggest surprise to me. I know he had sort of softened that stance, but when LeBron came out the other day, I said, well, what about Bronny? Aren't you waiting for Bronny?
I think one of the things that I enjoyed most about writing LeBron's biography was focusing on that aspect of his life, which gets overlooked and overshadowed by his basketball performance, which is his performance as a father. One of my favorite scenes to write in the book was when Bronny first learned to walk. LeBron was early in his career in Cleveland. He was on the Cavs. And, LeBron's girlfriend at the time, Savannah, and LeBron's mother sat in courtside seats on the baseline underneath the Cavs basket. And Bronny slipped off his mother's lap during a timeout and made his way across the court. LeBron saw him coming. And, there's a rule in the NBA. Family members can't sit on the bench during the game. It's kind of obvious. And LeBron put Bronny on the bench beside him. Everybody saw it. And this was at a time when the NBA's image was pretty bad. And here's this moment of a father and a son, and you could just see the pride in LeBron's face. All the cameras zeroed in on it. LeBron's been a proud dad from the moment Bronny arrived. And as his children have gotten older, he's been less and less bashful about being out in front as a dad. To me, that's one of the most, I'll use the word endearing. It probably sounds corny, but as a biographer, that was one of the most endearing things about him, is that the way he acts as a father, if there was truly a Father of the Year award, LeBron would get that every year. I mean, he has showed a lot of people, a lot of men, how to be a dad.
Jeff Benedict is our guest. His book is called LeBron. He's been the author of multiple incredible sports books about Tiger Woods, about the Patriots dynasty. Jeff, LeBron also, though, I don't want to say gets accused, but people insinuate that he's also rather calculating with the things that he says, right? He understands his influence. He tries to use that influence. And, you know, the idea that how long has he been, I would say, like that, you know, kind of understanding the chessboard here, seeing a few steps ahead, because it always seems like, you know, Russell Westbrook signing aside, it always seems like he's been 2 steps or 3 steps ahead of everyone else.
I would agree with that. You know, the word calculated, depending on who says it and in what context, can be taken as a negative word, or it can be a compliment. I think in LeBron's case, he does calculate. And I think when you're the face of the NBA and the face of a franchise and maybe the most famous athlete in the world, you should be calculated. You should be thoughtful before you say things. We live in a time when, you know, everyone is looking for hot takes and just saying things to get attention. That's not what LeBron does. He's careful about what he says. He's older and more mature about that now. And I think that from the time he was in high school, he demonstrated an ability to recruit people to his teams, to manage things. He recruited kids to his high school team. And he's done that in the NBA. And as he's gotten older, especially since he went to Miami, he's gotten really accomplished at building teams and doing things that normally we think of as what a general manager would do. But you're right, Maggie. He's very thoughtful about what he says. He's measured, and usually there's more behind it than just what he says. I see that more as a sign of maturity and smarts than anything.
You know, Jeff, he's also in that area. He's probably made some mistakes in who he's brought with him, too, like all great players, I think, have done. You know, you wrote a very comprehensive biography. I'm just curious, because we're saying so many positive things about LeBron. Yeah. What are some of the negative stories that you spend time focusing on, something that he might regret, you know, now that he's 38?
Well, the interesting thing when you ask that is I could throw that back at you and say, can you please cite one tabloidish headline from LeBron's 20-year career?
Actually, I was wondering if you were going to say the decision. That's sort of, or something.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, right? That is the nadir for LeBron. It's not what the decision was, but how he announced it. That was really the problem with the first decision, going to Miami. And then I think the other low point, which is even lower and potentially even more meaningful, is a year later, after all the bravado at the beginning of Miami, talking about winning 7 championships and all this stuff, a year later, they get beat by the Mavericks, which wasn't supposed to happen. And LeBron goes into a cocoon that summer and doesn't talk to anybody, doesn't see anybody. That is the low point of his professional career. And probably the low point of his public image is between the decision announced in Greenwich on ESPN and losing to Dallas. So let's just put that in a box for a minute and then go, okay, here's a guy who's literally occupied the brightest spotlight in sports for 20 years. And none of us can point to one thing that he's done in his personal life that you can say is embarrassing. And I only say that because, to me, that was probably the most shocking thing in writing the biography, is like, how does that happen? Because he has all the trappings and all the traps of celebrity, fame, power, wealth. He's had more of that around him than anyone. And yet he hasn't stepped in any of those traps. And so I think that says a lot about who he chose to surround himself with when he was a teenager. The fact that those people, and I'm starting with Savannah, his girlfriend that he picked when he was in high school, and his inner circle, Maverick Carter, Rich Paul, and Randy Mims, those 4 people are still who are around him today. And I think it says a lot about LeBron's ability to choose his friends well. Usually when athletes bring their childhood associates with them into the pros, it's a recipe for disaster. It has not been that way with LeBron.
Jeff Benedict is our guest. He's the author of the new book about LeBron. It's called LeBron. You know, Jeff, I can't help but think as you're describing that, it's so diametrically opposite to another athlete that you profiled, like Tiger Woods, who couldn't stop having, you know, personal scandals. And even today you can look and there's headlines about his latest girlfriend and they're going to court. And it's always been kind of one thing after the other with Tiger in terms of the personal side. Yet they're such great athletes, both of them. What were the biggest differences? Why do you think Tiger got embroiled in so many scandals and LeBron has been basically clean for 20 years?
Well, so it's a great question, really. And I look at literature as a great sort of comparison here with these two guys. LeBron, to me, is like a Charles Dickens character. You know, he's like Pip. And he's someone who comes from incredible abject poverty. He doesn't know his father. He doesn't have a father. His mother has nothing. They don't even have a home at times. They don't know where their next meal is going to come from. He is like a Dickens character. Tiger is more like a Shakespearean character. It's all that complexity and trouble that you see coming. Like it's coming. And Tiger was raised very differently than LeBron. I mean, he was raised in a middle-class home with two parents who were incredibly involved in his life, largely a white community with, you know, a lot of time spent on golf courses and country clubs. LeBron and Tiger were raised as diametrically different as two kids could be in the United States. And yet they have something in common. They are two of the three greatest athletes this country has produced in the last 20 years. And they were on the stage at the same time. But once you get past that, there's not a lot of similarities between them other than they were both deemed the chosen one at a very young age by Sports Illustrated. And I think the two of them dealt with that mantle and the pressure that comes with it differently. LeBron seemed built for that. Those big, brawny shoulders that he is known for on the court, there's a symbolism to those shoulders. It's like he was made to carry that burden of being the heir to Air Jordan. He never shied away from that, and he never allowed it to eat him alive, which it would have eaten most people alive.
All right, Jeff, you go from Michael Jordan, few-year gap, and then you have LeBron James. Is the NBA going to be able to find another person to hold the mantle? It seems the way you're describing it and the way we all know it is, it's a very, very hard assignment to be the best player in the sport and really to be just transcended. You think we're going to see another person step into that lane?
There's no one on the horizon. To me, there's no one on the horizon. I don't see anyone on the horizon in golf that will ever come close to what Tiger has meant to the sport and to the culture. I don't see anyone on the football horizon that will do what Tom Brady did in the last 20 plus years. And I don't see anyone in the NBA now, and certainly no one on the horizon, who will measure up to what LeBron and Michael were. LeBron and Michael are in a category all by themselves. You know, it would be like Mount Rushmore with only two heads. There's not anyone else, and I'm not taking anything away from Bill Russell or Wilt Chamberlain or Kareem, but when you look at the totality of what Jordan and LeBron have done for the game and the culture, they were huge cultural phenomenons. Michael transformed basketball, but what he did with Nike and shoes culturally was also transformative. And LeBron is that. They're transcendent figures that go way beyond the game. There's no one else in the NBA that is in that class today.
Although the Warriors fans might say Steph Curry, but Jeff, I don't think I would put Curry in that category, but him revolutionizing the game with his shooting, but he doesn't reach the culture. I don't think he has the crossover that LeBron has. Crossover appeal, not the actual crossover.
It's just simple. I love Steph Curry. He is an incredibly rare talent. We may never see another guy who plays basketball like Steph Curry. But what I'm talking about with LeBron is there's so many things you can point to that separate him. Forming a relationship with Warren Buffett when he was in his early 20s, and Buffett was the richest man in the world, and LeBron saying, I want to be a billionaire. Well, he is one now. Or it's when Vogue says they want to put him on the cover with a model and make him the first African-American male in the 100-year history of the magazine to appear on the cover. And LeBron says, I'll do it, but I want to be on the cover with Giselle, the biggest supermodel in the world. That cover had cultural impact. And I'm just saying, if we had time, I could go through we could talk politics, we could talk social activism. LeBron has something in every category. Who else has gone toe-to-toe with the leader of the free world like he did with Donald Trump when he was the president? There's no other athlete who did that or who has done that in the past. That's what I mean about transcending the game. And that's what makes LeBron so different. We're almost not talking about better basketball players. We're talking about something much bigger than that.
One name, when you talk about Tiger and LeBron this century, Serena Williams in that conversation, or is sort of a different impact? I mean, obviously there's been movies about her as well.
I was talking about the three male athletes who've dominated the stage. Yeah. There is one female athlete that belongs with them. If you expanded it, it would be her. Yeah. So you would be talking about Tom, Serena, LeBron, and Tiger. The four of them together, just as sports fans, it's crazy to think that for the last 20 years, we've had those four athletes dominating for that long, playing as long as they did. I say this all the time, and this is why it's not a knock on Curry or Durant or Mahomes or any of these other guys. It's one thing to get to the top of the mountain, win a Super Bowl, win 2 Super Bowls, win a couple of NBA finals, win Wimbledon a few times. That's one thing. It's another thing to get to the top of the mountain and then occupy it for 20 years. That's what we're talking about with these four athletes, 20 years of dominance. And so when you dominate that long and you play until you're 40 years old or thereabouts, and even when you get close to 40 or hit 40, you're still capable of dominating. That's what I'm saying. We should not expect repeat offenders down the road, because I don't think we're going to see that.
Jeff, can't tell you how much we appreciate this. The book is called LeBron, available wherever you get your books. It's awesome. Thank you, Jeff, so much. Good to talk with you. We'll catch up with you soon.